Welcome back, everybody, to River Ave Radio. I am your co-host, Ryan, and who am I here with today?
I am good audio Kyle Dixon, hopefully speaking. It's good to be back. It's been a little while. We had Thanksgiving off. I hope everyone had a good time with their families. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing great. It was a busy. I feel like the off season has gotten off to a much busier start than it usually does. There's been a lot of moves of, like I feel like last year it was just Willie Adames signed before Soto, and then everything happened after that. But I feel like there have been a couple big moves this week, specifically within the AL Beast. I think the AL Beast is coming back. It seems like our prediction from the first episode that there weren't going to be any good teams in the AL East may have been a little
Did we
far-fetched.
predict that?
I think I did.
Yeah, that was stupid. I don't know why you predicted that.
Listen, it's a Yankees podcast. But, yeah, Baltimore signed Ryan Helsley. The Rays signed Cedric Mullins. But most importantly, Dylan Cease and Sonny Gray have gone to the Toronto Blue Jays and the Boston Red Sox, respectively. Kyle, my question for you, who do you think is going to be more of a problem?
Well, obviously, Dylan Cease got a 7-year deal, and he's been better in his career, and he's a lot younger, and he strikes out more people. He's basically better at everything. So, in terms of who's going to be more of a problem long term, it's obviously going to be Dylan Cease. But I think for this year specifically, I know we'll kind of get into this. You're not very concerned about Sonny Gray. I'm a little bit more concerned about him than you are. Not necessarily because he's elite or he's going to strike out the world, but because I think he's going to be the number 3 starter, and he's left room for Boston to trade for somebody like Cole Reagans. But in the meantime, I'm going to just say Dylan Cease, better pitcher. I'm more worried about him. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think we've obviously had success against both of these pitchers in the past, but Dylan Cease took a no-hitter into the 5th or 6th inning this year, and that was when he was bad. Like, he didn't have – that was when he was kind of still rocky. That was at the start of the year. Yeah, against us. And so I do think that Dylan Cease is going to be more of a problem. I do agree. I think that Toronto has built up a sneaky good pitching lab, and I think that they're going to get a lot of the things that weren't really working with Dylan Cease. They're going to get them right. And I think Sonny Gray is the same thing. I think Boston's going to tell him to use his fastball a lot less. It got absolutely rocked this past year. It had, I'm looking it up right now, its run value was a -4 this year. His sweeper and curveball had a 7 and 5 run value respectively, so I think you can probably expect to see a lot more of that. But yeah, I think, talking trash on Twitter is one thing, but they are both good pitchers, and both teams have gotten better because of these additions.
Sonny Gray actually does seem to profile pretty well for Fenmickey Park because he does not give up basically any fly balls to left field, which is obviously the weakness in Fenway. Mm-hmm. I think he was in like the 3rd percentile for fly balls down the left field line. So he's not going to be giving up a lot of Green Monster home runs or even Green Monster fake doubles. And if a lot of these fly balls go out into the weird-ass right field that Fenway has, he could be more effective, especially considering how great Boston's defensive outfield is. They just can basically get to any ball, especially in that right center gap or down the right field line. But you got to admit, he's old. Yeah. And he wasn't good last year. I understand that he showed some signs of brilliance. Like his game against, it was the Guardians, or maybe it was the Guardians or the Pirates. He threw like a 13 strikeout complete game in 89 pitches. Obviously a bad team, whether or not it was the Guardians or the Pirates, I forget. But that's probably one of the greatest pitching performances of the last 30 years. But he's, 34, 35 now? He's been bad in Fenway. He has a career ERA in Fenway over 6, I think. He's obviously bad in New York, so I don't know. I think either Sonny Gray will be really good and be a major problem, or he'll be kind of an afterthought by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think I actually said something to that on something similar to that on Twitter. I said every start is either going to be 7 innings pitched, 6 Ks, no hits, no runs, or 2.1, 6 earned runs with a bunch of home runs. Judge
That's what
has
we did to
2
him.
or whatever.
We own
That's
you,
what we did
Sonny
to him.
Gray.
That's what Benny Bonds and our glorious captain, Aaron Judge, who has like a stupid lifetime average against Sonny Gray. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it is very high.
We should also mention the annoying ass comments that Sonny Gray made in the media.
Yeah, we should. You go.
For those who are unaware, Sonny Gray basically came out in his Boston introductory press conference and said, "I hate New York. I never wanted to be there. Blah blah blah. Fuck you, buddy." It's genuinely crazy because when he got traded here in 2017, he voluntarily wrote a Players Tribune article, which is like basically an outlet for players to say whatever they want. They're not required to say anything, mind you. He did this on his own terms. He said, "Oh, I can't wait to be in New York. I'm out of Oakland. Nobody cares at Oakland. Greatest fans in the world. Whenever every kid wants to play for the Yankees. Pinstripes so valuable. Blah, blah, fucking blah." And I'm not going to say that it was entirely his fault that he sucked in New York, because our pitching coach, Larry Rothschild, was a literal terrorist during this time period. But acting like you were hated by New York fans because you weren't, quote, allowed to be yourself is so stupid. Everyone hated you because you were absolute fucking dog shit. He had the worst home ERA in Yankees history, Ryan. He was literally the worst Yankee Stadium pitcher ever. And yeah, sure, we hated you because you weren't allowed to be yourself. Whatever, dude. I hope we own this motherfucker.
Yeah, I agree. I think there have been a couple players to leave now, and we'll get to the most recent addition in a few minutes. But like you said, it was the worst home ERA of all time. Like, it wasn't like he was like good with some bad patches. Like, he was one of the worst starters in Yankee history, which is saying a lot, because as good as this franchise has been, there have been some crazy stinkers as well. And actually, on that note, Oswald Peraza this year, this is kind of a crazy slight, but this year he put up like the third worst performance by a Yankee of all time by WRC plus. He had a negative WRC plus. He was getting booed left and right. He never said a thing. So
yeah.
Thank you, Oswald. I always liked you as a prospect.
So I guess let's just move on. Sonny Gray, enemy number one, I'd say. The rivalry is back, however. AL East has never been more toxic in my lifetime, and it's beautiful.
And it's not just Yankees and Blue Jays and Red Sox. Like, Orioles fans, when their team is good, like the night and day Orioles fans when their team is good and when it's bad is insane. For 2 years, you couldn't open a social media app without hearing from them, without seeing some stupid tweet or whatever. And now you don't hear a peep. But
silence.
They did sign Ryan Helsley, and apparently they are in the market to make some more moves, and we'll see about that. But moving on. The last little bit of free agent movings that is related to us. Devin Williams has signed with the Mets on a 3-year deal. No opt-outs. So he will be in Queens for the next 3 years unless they DFA him. And he shared a message with Yankee fans on his Instagram story that, for a fan base that didn't want him back, they're pretty loud in his DMs. And before I get started on this, I just want to say, I think DMing an athlete is just like stupid and wrong, and you're a loser and you just shouldn't do it. Like, especially these people who like send death threats and say horrible things and racist things. Like, you just are terrible and you need to reevaluate. However, again, acting like you didn't lose us the division this year. And by the way, I've said on this podcast I wanted Devin back. I ended on a high note with Devin, with the playoffs and the September and everything. Like, he was a great setup man for Bednar. But nonetheless, you lost us the division before you did that. I've said this on the podcast before. There were like 3 games in Texas where he blew 3 games in a row every night, and it wasn't like it was like bloop singles. Like he was giving up home runs to Jock Peterson. What are we doing? And you're gonna they're bullying me. Fuck off. You were awful. You were bad.
First, yeah, I agree. DMing an athlete under any circumstance, even if you're glazing them, is weird. Just don't talk to them, dude.
They're not your friends.
They're not your friends. They don't know you. Whatever. The only man you can talk to on social media is Jazz Chisholm because he's a chiller. But I thought the quote was objectively really funny because, like, WFAN fans were both calling for his literal death the entire year and now are in his DMs saying, oh, you're a bum for going to the Mets. Ha, 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 ha. Stupid. But obviously, I hope Devin's not successful in his future. Yeah. He probably will be because nothing bad ever happens to the Mets. That's actually not true. Bad things happen to them every single day. But sorry, I was too busy thinking about the Blue Jays in my head. Yeah. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what he is. 3 years is a decently long deal, especially we've been hearing that they're still in on Edwin Diaz. So a 3-year deal for a setup man at $15 million a year. There are deferrals, so I think the present day value is a little less. But still, very expensive for a setup man. We'll kind of just see what happens. Steve Cohen must have genuinely been traumatized by how bad the bullpen was this year. And I don't blame him. Every single time I tuned into a Met game, they were doing something stupid.
Yeah, and I think to your point, like, I think with Steve Cohen, like, concerning yourself with the money is just pointless. He's going to spend, and I was listening to Talking Baseball, or Baseball Today, and he said, like, he was like, if David Stearns walks into his office and he's like, oh, I don't want to give him 5 years, Steve Cohen's going to laugh in his face. Like, Steve Cohen can spend as much as he well pleases, and he wants to be, the new Steinbrenner. He wants to bring a championship to New York immediately. His goal was to have brought a championship to Queens already, and that hasn't happened. So he wants to win. He's got the money, and he's reinvesting it in his team. They just announced that they're opening up the casino and the whole Mets district and stuff like that and whatever. And yeah, you can say a lot of things about Steve Cohen, but you can't say he doesn't want to win.
Never forget that Steve Cohen, besides the casino thing, which I think is awful, also was convicted of insider trading. He's a bum. F the Mets. F Steve Cohen. Anyway, I think we're going to do one last free agency thing here, which is Cody Ponce. He signed to, I believe, a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Blue Jays as well. Literally everybody's going to the AL East. We're the only division in baseball that actually tries.
Yeah.
AL Central, man. But anyway, Cody Ponce, literally, do you know how good he was last year in the KBO? Have you seen any of his stats?
I have. He was like it was like the best ever, right?
Yeah, he won the MVP. He had the best ERA ever. He had like a 30% K- walk rate, which is basically Scooble territory. He was the best pitcher ever in the KBO. And you see this and you're like, wow, like that's crazy. How do you only get 3 for 30? But then you scroll down the list of best seasons ever by KBO pitchers, and you see absolute bums who fled from the MLB. So just because he was elite in the KBO does not mean that he'll be elite in MLB. Eric Fetty came over from the KBO. He was in the top 10 there, best pitcher seasons of all time. He did have a very productive half season with the White Sox. I'm not going to fully say Eric Fetty was a bum, but he was DFA'd multiple times this year, 2 years after coming over from the KBO, after having a top 10 season of all time over there. The offensive environment there is just awful. The hitters are not good. We basically never see any hitters come over from the KBO and be good at Major League Baseball. Like, I'm totally blanking on his name. Giants center fielder?
Jung-Hoo Lee. I'm looking at his savant right now.
Jung-Hoo Lee is probably the best KBO hitter that's come over in recent memory, and he's good, but he's not great. And this is like top 1 over there, best hitters. So it just kind of shows you the offensive environment is not that good. And Cody Ponce does have some juice in the tank. I'm not going to fully say he's useless. His velo's up. His movement, from all accounts, is pretty good. 3 years at $10 million a year is very cheap. Like, it's pretty low risk for the Blue Jays. I do like the signing, but I don't think it's something Yankees fans should be overly concerned about until it becomes something to be overly concerned about.
Yeah, he's inevitably going to own us. I've seen that. I've seen the changeup. It looks pretty dirty, but I, I'm with you. I like the signing. I think it's good, and I think Toronto is building a pretty nasty and deep, more importantly, rotation. But I don't think this is really anything to be all that worried about. To your point, Jung-Hoo Lee has put up a 641 and a 734 OPS in his 2 years in MLB. So, and he like you said, was cream of the crop of KBO hitters. So
he had like 5 home runs against us in that early Giants series. Remember him hitting like a 3-run home run off Rodon?
He hit 2 home runs off Rodon in that day, and that
Whatever,
was
man.
that. Without those 2 home runs, that would have been like a gem of a Rodon start. That he was dirty that day, except for those 2 pitches.
Whatever, man. I'm not mad about it though. I'm not bitter about it.
I'm not.
Let's
I'm not
get to our current starters.
Yes. Time to cook.
Show me.
Oh, okay. I'll start. So just going down the list, Max Fried. There's not too much to say about him. Obviously, was elite in the regular season last year. Was a top 10 pitcher in the AL. Arguably a top 10 pitcher in baseball. He was an all-star. Got down ballot Cy Young votes. Probably had one of his better years in his career. Unfortunately, he's going to have to step up again. You know, you thought that it was going to be. I feel like every year we have the best rotation in baseball, and then by the time spring training rolls around, it's in tatters. But at least this year, it's only temporary. You're getting Rodon, Cole, and Clark Schmidt at some point in the year. But Max Fried, once again, we do need him to step up and be the ace of this rotation, and obviously he's capable of doing it. So moving on to someone that both of us really like, Cam Schlittler. There was big news about him the other day. Apparently he is planning on adding an off-speed pitch, and there was talk of a splitter, but according to Matt Blake, so Gary Phillips wrote an article where he interviewed Cam Schlittler, and this is where all this information is coming from. So thank you to Gary Phillips of the New York Daily News. And in that article, he said that Matt Blake tried to work with Cam Schlittler on a splitter last year, but they couldn't get his wrist movement right to throw it the right way. So it sounds like it's going to be a changeup instead of a splitter. This is the quote. Yankees pitching coach Matt Blake told the News that the changeup is more likely after Schlittler struggled with the pronation of his wrist while tinkering with a splitter last spring. So it definitely sounds like it's going to be a changeup, and it's been said, obviously this is a Yankees podcast, but Cam Schlittler with a decent off-speed pitch is going to be one of the top-end starters in baseball next year. And to have him, when you get to July or August when everyone's back, he's probably going to be your 4 starter. That's insane. That is just riches of depth that, frankly, we just haven't seen from this rotation in a very long time, which is why it's all the more important for the Yankees to take this year extremely seriously. You're going to have a fully healthy, hopefully, Garrett Cole, fully healthy, hopefully, Clark Schmidt, and fully healthy, hopefully, Carlos Rodon. Obviously, there were some nightmarish experiences the last time he didn't participate in spring training, but it sounds like this is, he was still recovering from that back issue when he came back in 2023, and it sounds like the bone spurs issue is going to be not an issue when he comes back. So very much looking forward to what Cam Schlittler can do this year. Do you have anything to add on the Schlitt God?
Yeah, I mean, against Boston in the crazy wildcard start, he was literally just spamming, I think, 90% fastballs. So he wasn't even really a 2-pitch pitcher during that start. He was a 1-pitch pitcher. Obviously, he was throwing 3 different kinds of fastballs. Have you ever heard of the fastball triangle, Ryan?
No.
It's basically the idea of throwing a 4-seam, a sinker, and a cutter, because they're all fastballs. They all move vaguely similarly and vaguely at the same velocity, especially with Schlittler. Usually cutters are slower, but he throws his at like 96 plus. And throwing all 3 of these fastballs, they kind of make a triangle in their movement patterns, and clearly it's effective. Schlittler just by the numbers in the regular season was probably a top 20 pitcher not in terms of obviously the counting stats because he came up late, but in terms of the rate stats. Like he had a sub-3 ERA. He was striking a ton of people out. He wasn't walking very many people. And again, this is all without this secondary off-speed pitch. Obviously, he did have a curveball, but he didn't use it very much. When he did throw it, it was sometimes very effective and sometimes it got shelled. It was very inconsistent. So Schlittler really has so much room to grow from a platform that's already an elite pitcher. So you never know with young pitchers. There's obviously a chance he could backslide. I hope not, for obvious reasons. But we have nothing but hope and optimism for Cam Schlittler going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, excited to see what 2026, wow, almost said 2025, 2026 brings.
Will Warren, though, another rookie-ish. He obviously pitched a lot more this season than Cam Schlittler did, to lesser success. But Will Warren has some juice in the tank. I am still a Will Warren believer. I mean, he strikes so many people out. His stuff is great. It's just every so often he spams his pitches directly down the middle and they get hit for 10 home runs in a row. And once he figures out how not to do that, which I think is possible, I think that fixing your command is a lot easier than making your pitches actually be good. Because he has the good pitches down, he just doesn't have not throwing them over the middle of the plate. So he pitched a whole season. I think he made over 30 starts this year. Obviously, there was some ups and downs there, but when he was on, he looked amazing. He had a bunch of games in the middle of the season with 10-plus strikeouts. I think he was top 10 in K per 9 for starters. And when you strike a lot of people out, good things can happen.
Yeah, I agree. His pitch run value is really funny. In 2025, his fastball run value was an 11. His sinker run value was a 5. His sweeper run value was a -10. And his changeup and curveball were -5 and -7. So it looks like he's having a little bit of trouble with the off-speed pitches. And I think a lot of that comes from the walks, which were obviously an issue for Mr. Warren this year. But again, like you're saying, fixing command is probably one of the easier things to do when you're fixing a pitcher. And not for nothing, like we talk about depth and we talk about all the pitcher injuries that we faced in the last few years. Will Warren came out and made every single start. Obviously, there were some bumps in the road, but more or less, they were quality starts. And the Red Sox game where he gave up however many runs in the first inning, that wasn't as bad as it looks on the stat sheet. Like, the defense was atrocious behind him. It was a lot of bloopers. It wasn't a lot of hard hit stuff. And so the potential is there, and the defense just needs to be better. You know, that was the story of a lot of Red Sox games this year. But yeah, I mean,
Will Warren ended the year with a 4.4 ERA, and that was including, I can name 3 starts off the top of my head where he gave up like 12 runs in one inning. It was the Blue Jays start. That was the worst game ever. The Red Sox start and the Dodgers start. You know the Dodgers start well because you started him in fantasy that day. Bad game. Bad game for Sack.
It was like a -19 or something like that. It was ridiculous.
But what that shows is that his 4.4 ERA, like, that's not good, but it's by no means unstartable. That's a solid 5-starter ERA right there. And that's heavily inflated by a couple of his just truly worst outings. So other than, like, obviously you can't take away the worst starts of the season. But it just shows that most days that Will Warren was taking the ball, he was at least serviceable. And serviceable with a higher ceiling of upside is something that I can get behind. And especially he is going to be given a run at the beginning of the year because there's a lot of injuries. He's going to get starts. He's seemed to improve every year. Like his 2024 was genuinely atrocious. He had a 10 ERA. This year he halved it. Obviously, I doubt he's going to have it again to a 2. But if he can get it to like a high 3 this year and continue putting out volume, I'll be very happy with what Will Warren's doing.
Hey, I mean, another 4-something ERA pitcher with really good strikeout numbers just got paid $210 million. So
Yeah.
anything is possible.
Sign Will Warren to a
Shoot for the
7-year
moon, Will
deal
Warren. That's
with
what I'm hearing.
deferrals. Next guy up on the list is someone that Ryan has a lot to say about. So I'm just going to pass it off to you. Tell us about Luis Heel.
Yeah, so I was saying to Kyle pre-show, I feel like every time I sit down to do research for our episodes here, I have ended up doing a much deeper dive than I expected on someone random. Not someone random, they're all part of the team. But the first episode, it was Austin Wells, and this week it's Luis Heel. So my passion project of the week is to tell you about why Luis Heel was bad this year. And so the main issue, he did not generate whiffs in 2025. The velocity was down across all of his pitches, but I remember hearing something about that was like them trying to work on his command. So I don't take that with a grain of salt, but his command was a big issue this year. He had second percentile walk rates, which is not good at all. It was a 13.5%. And so mainly the difference, obviously, Luis Heel won Rookie of the Year a year ago, and he was really, really good in 2024. He deserved to win Rookie of the Year. In 2025, obviously something was different. And so what was that? Namely, the thing that I noticed in doing this research was that the pitch shapes were much different. So, and his fastball, which got absolutely destroyed this year, or not destroyed, but it got hit really hard this year. It did not generate the whiffs that it used to get in 2024. So just to give you some insight here, in 2024, the whiff rate on his fastball was a 28.5 and it was an 18.8 in 2025. So that's a 10% decrease. That's significant. And that is mainly the velocity, yes, but also the pitch shapes were much different. So in 2024, his fastball on average had 17.2 inches of rise and 5.6 inches of tail. So I don't know if you guys have ever looked at the Baseball Savant movement profiles, but tail is moving towards third base and break is moving towards first from the perspective of the pitcher, and rise and, or I'm sorry, not break. Yes, break and drop. Sorry. Rise, drop, tail, break. Tail towards third, break towards first. So in 2024, he had 17.2 inches of rise and 5.6 inches of tail. So it was moving a lot further towards third base. In 2025, it had 16.3 inches of rise, so it was coming down lower into the zone, and only 2.8 inches of tail. So it was moving towards the center of the zone, which is obviously easier to hit than a pitch that's outside the zone. He was throwing in and out of the zone. So he was throwing in the zone 6% more and out of the zone 6% less, which could be a weird math thing because of innings, but it is worth noticing, and it kind of coincides with that pitch shape thing I was talking about. And finally, his stuff plus, which is a metric that basically grades how good your pitch is. He's a 3-pitch guy, and all 3 of them went down. He went from a 108 to a 101 on his fastball, a 117 on his slider to a 111, and an 89 on his changeup to an 85. So all around, just not a great year for Luis Heel, and obviously he was coming back from injuries. Actually, I shouldn't say that. The results were there. He put up somehow a lot of good starts. He 8 innings and didn't give up a lot of runs. But the underlying numbers worry me about next year, and I am curious what the Yankees' plan for him is and what they view his role as in 2026. Kyle, I don't know if you have any more thoughts on this. You are muted. You are muted.
Bruh. If you watched any Luis Heel start this year, you could really tell that he was not pitching as well as the ERA numbers would suggest. He literally had a better ERA this year somehow than he did in his Rookie of the Year season, except that all of his numbers, expected numbers, went down. I truly believe that if Luis Heel pitched a full season, he would have had above a 5 ERA. His expected ERA was exactly 5, but I think it would have been worse than that. his walk rate was actually quite similar to his walk rate last year. So I don't even think it was a walk issue. I think it's just that he was walking people, and then when he would try to get out of it by striking people out, he just couldn't because his stuff was not nearly as good as it was last year, like you were talking about. His walk rate this year was in the 2nd percentile, and his walk rate last year was in the 7th percentile. They were within 1 percentage point of each other in terms of just total walk percent. But his K percentage last year was 27%, and his K percentage this year was 16%. That's going from basically an elite strikeout pitcher to one of the worst strikeout pitchers in the league. And does Luis Gil still have juice in the tank? I think you could say yeah. I don't think that he's completely cooked yet. I think that he could definitely make some reasonable adjustments going to the offseason. You mentioned that he was throwing not as hard to try to dial in the command, but clearly that wasn't working. His command wasn't good when he was throwing less velo. He just was getting hit harder and still walking the same amount of people. So I don't really understand what the philosophy was there. I don't know if that came from the top with Matt Blake or if that was just Luis Gil saying, I don't want to walk as many people. Not that it worked again. But I don't know. Luis Gil I'm giving him a question mark rating for 2026. I don't think we can rely on him, but I think that there is something in there that can be unlocked. I think he can get back to at least being productive. Whether or not he can be 2024 Gil, Rookie of the Year Gil. Even in 2024, by the way, he was bad in the second half. He was really amazing in the first half. But if he can, I don't know if he can ever get back to first half 2024 Gil, but I think he can get back to being a productive 4 or 5 starter. And that's, as we were talking about with as we were talking about with Will Warren, a 4 or 5 starter that pitches a full season is very valuable.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, it sounds like they should just tell him to go back to throwing hard because it sounds like the command is like he was successful when the command wasn't that good anyways, so might as well just, try and empty out the tank. And I do think that they should work on his pitch shapes because they are, as I said, they were moving a lot more towards the middle of the plate, which is not where you want to leave your pitches.
That makes me think that it was partially injury related, just because we see this. We're going to talk about this a little bit with Sandy Alcantara later. Like when you're coming back from major injury like that, it's usually the shape of your pitches and the command that comes back later. So hopefully next year, coming off a larger layoff, didn't pitch much in the playoffs because you sucked and we lost to the Blue Jays. So hopefully you feel better. Hopefully you pitch better. I think that's all there's really saying. Lastly, we got Ryan Yarbrough, I think.
Yeah. I kind of the same thing. The ERA was a lot better than the expected numbers. He's fun to watch. I feel like you don't really get a lot of those like trick pitch starters anymore where they're throwing sub 90 mile per hour fastballs. And the Dodgers start was just, in hindsight, fun to watch. At the time, it was incredibly frustrating because of the Will Warren start a day before, and my fantasy team was struggling at the time. But that's neither here nor there. I'm glad they brought him back. We need pitching depth. Obviously, there's going to be Alan Winans was the 5 starter until we re-signed him, and obviously you hope for more signings to come, which we will get to later. But
yeah, Yarborough's good. I mean, he's not like elite or even close to elite, but I think he can eat some innings at a rate that will keep us in games. It's not like Stroman or Cookie Carrasco.
Yeah.
Like they would come in to eat innings, and that game was basically immediately lost. Ryan Yarbrough comes in, I give it a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see what happens. I feel like he's probably going to have more of a bullpen role this year, to be honest, or like a long relief kind of like if a Will Warren or a Luis Gil gives up 5 runs in 2 innings or whatever, he's got to come in and take the reins, which he did a few times this year. He righted the ship after some rough openings from our starters. But do you want to move on to the bullpen?
I think I'm just going to quickly run through. We already talked a little bit about some of the injury guys. There's not a ton to say about them because a lot of them we don't really know what we're going to get.
Yeah.
Garrett Cole is obviously the biggest question mark. He's getting paid a ton this year, so I really hope he's good. But coming off Tommy John, we've seen pretty wildly different outcomes for pitchers his age coming off major surgery. Like Verlander came back in 2022. He was older than Cole is now and put up, I think, a sub-2 ERA and won the Cy Young that year. Yeah. So Garrett Cole, not Verlander tier, obviously, in terms of his career, but basically kind of in a 1B tier to Verlander's 1A tier with Verlander, Scherzer, Kershaw, etc. Mm-hmm. So people can be really good after coming off Tommy John. I think it's foolish to write off Garrett Cole as being mid this year. You really don't know what you're going to get with him. And nobody competes harder than he does. Nobody wants to pitch well more than Garrett Cole does. So I think we are at least going to get something good out of Garrett Cole this year. I do not think it's going to be a disaster. Carlos Rodon, we mentioned, coming off injury. We have Yankee fan trauma from 2023 when he missed spring training. He was good last year. He was very good. Obviously, you can say the same thing about Max Fried, but they weren't very good in the playoffs. It was a 2-game sample. Wasn't great. But hopefully he's all right. You have anything else to say about those two guys?
Apparently Boris, there was a quote from Boris where he said he has all weapons available. I guess Cole sent him some film, and he's very excited about coming back. So if you trust Scott Boris's word on Garrett Cole's pitching ability, he's going to be fine next year. And like I said before, I do think this is much different than 2023, where Carlos Rodon was still injured, number one, and number two was an entirely different pitcher. Like, he was still a 2-pitch guy in 2023, and in the last 2 years he's worked really hard at developing some really elite off-speed stuff. And like I said, the bone spur thing seems like it's not going to be a lingering issue into the season, so I'm not as worried about that as I was, as I would have been if it was another back issue or something like that. But obviously you hope both of them and Clark Schmidt are all doing well in their recoveries, and hopefully we can see them on the mound again soon. But
Clark Schmidt was so good last year, and I think people didn't give him enough respect. You wrote down a couple numbers here.
Yeah.
For like a month, he had a sub-2 ERA. He threw 40 innings. He had that no-hitter that he got taken out of. And no, him staying in that no-hitter for 8 innings did not explode his elbow. Let's be real with ourselves.
Yeah.
But he was just great. All of his expected numbers also were great. It wasn't a mirage like some of those Luis Heel starts. So anything he can give us this year, I don't think we're relying on him. We hopefully will sign another starter, and then we definitely won't be relying on him coming back strong. Mm-hmm. But it would be awesome to get him back late in the year and have him be great. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah, I agree. But that is the starting pitching. We have 2 bullpen pieces that we want to talk about, because a lot of the pieces in the pen right now, you kind of know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get from David Bednar. You know what you're going to get from some of the guys like Yeri and Brent Hedrick and stuff like that. But 2 of the guys that we think are going to take the biggest jumps next year are Camilo Doval and Jake Bird. And I don't know, who do you want to talk about?
I wrote the stuff on Jake Bird, so you take Camilo and I'll take Jake Bird.
All right. Camilo Doval, once he gets his command issues settled, he is going to be really good for a very long time. He throws nasty, nasty pitches. He throws a 100-mile-per-hour cutter. And this is not very analytical, but I remember on the broadcast one time, Paul O'Neill was watching him pitch, and he threw that cutter, and Paul O'Neill was audibly shocked. Like, he was like, oh. And then he said, well, Michael, the game has passed me by. Like, he was just bewildered by this pitch. And he was rightfully so. Like, Camilo Doval obviously struggled for a while when he came over. I think the Yankees pitching group was trying to get him to work with some different stuff and different pitches. But once he kind of started using his cutter or his slider to set up his cutter a little bit better to be a strikeout pitch, he settled into form. He had a very similar end-of-year trajectory to Devin Williams. His K rates this year were still elite. 29.5% chase rate is the 66th percentile, 28.4% whiff rate, and the 25.9% K rate. As I said, when he was all around better in September, his command was much better. The walk rate was a 9.7% compared to a 14.3 in August. So, like we were saying before, command issues are one of the easiest issues to solve. And if they can get Camilo Doval to start locating the zone better, then we're good. And I think this is why the Yankees really weren't sweating losing Devin Williams, because they have Camilo Doval, and he could really settle into a great setup role for David Bednar, and I think that's where you're going to see a lot of him this year.
Camilo Doval was a nearly league-leading saves person in San Francisco for a couple years. He's so good, and even when his command sucks, which I don't think we'll ever get to the point where his command will be good, but if we can even get the command to be passable, he's just so good. His stuff is just that elite. And when the trade went through, both you and I were so excited, and I think both of us remain
Curry
excited.
Tweet, I love Camilo Doval, and it's not just the strikeout stuff. Like he has 91st percentile ground ball rates, 83rd percentile barrel rates. Like all the batted ball data is supreme. Like he's not giving up hard contact. He's not giving up a lot of home runs. He just all around. He's so good. He's so good. I really like Camilo Doval. River Ave Radio loves Camilo Doval.
Fact. River Ave Radio also is intrigued by Jake Bird. So you might remember Jake Bird came over from the Rockies at the trade deadline. He threw one game in Miami. He gave up a grand slam, and then he got sent down, never to be seen from again. And you might say, wow, that trade sucks, Brian Cashman. But I think there's some juice in the tank there. Like, the Yankees love bullpen development, and Jake Bird has some interesting stuff. So Stuff Plus is a metric where 100 is league average. So if you have an 117 Stuff Plus, your pitches they move 17% better than a league average pitch, more or less. And Jake Bird's 117 Stuff Plus is elite. And you might say, how the hell does Jake Bird have an 117 Stuff Plus? Because when I read that, I was like, really? Jake Bird? So his sweeper and his curveball specifically are just insane. His sweeper, which he throws around 40% of the time, had an 126 Stuff Plus, which is crazy high. And his curveball had an 134 Stuff Plus, which is like Devin Williams' changeup, which is probably the best pitch in baseball. Like it's either that or Scooble's changeup, is in like the 145 range. So it's like basically one order of magnitude below literally the best pitches in the game in terms of movement and his release angle. Because remember, Jake Bird kind of throws weird. And throwing weird and throwing with movement is the ticket to success in the major leagues. For context, in terms of like what some other comparable Stuff Plus pitches are, like Edwin Diaz's slider is a 117 Stuff Plus, which is exactly the same as Jake Bird's overall Stuff Plus. And obviously, just pure movement, pure stuff does not make you a good pitcher. There's been lots of pitchers who throw pitches with crazy movement and whatever that suck at Major League Baseball. But the reason that I think Jake Bird sucked last year for the Yankees in that one game, and also when he went down to the minors, he was not good in the minor leagues. In AAA, he was bad. But the reason he was bad is that his sinker, which was his only fastball that he threw it about 40% of the time. Sorry, he threw the sinker 34% of the time. He threw the sweeper 41% of the time. His sinker sucked ass. And it just was awful. And I think it was it was well below average Stuff Plus. It was well below average in terms of just people nuking it. But the Yankees love developing sinkers. And the Yankees have shown the ability to develop sinkers. And I think that once he gets a fastball that can set up his elite off-speed and breaking pitches, he will be at least effective at a major league level, with upside to be extremely effective. So the risk is low. He's getting paid basically nothing. It's not like we signed him to a $10 million deal. And Jake Bird can be a productive member of this Yankees bullpen, especially because we let go a lot of our lower leverage guys. Like Mark Leiter Jr., oh my God. Thank God Mark Leiter Jr. is gone. Yeah, let's clap. Mark Leiter Jr. one of the worst pitchers I've ever seen in my life. And I was excited when he came over, but god damn, thank fuck he's gone.
I was just going to say, like you were just saying, there are guys that throw the ball really well and like feel like they would make a really good like Yankee Matt Blake like passion project, but it simply did not happen. I was stoked when we got Mark Leiter Jr. and I believed a lot longer than most. I really did think that they were going to be able to make it work, and obviously, you know, you wish all the best to Mark Leiter Jr. the person, Mark Leiter Jr. the pitcher. Not a big fan.
His expected numbers before he came over were genuinely pretty good, but just
Yeah.
even his expected numbers in like 2024 and stuff weren't that bad. But like at a certain point, the real production matters more than the expected numbers. Like we can talk about like, oh, his average exit velo last year was in the 92nd percentile and his 94th percentile hard hit rate is better than blah 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 and blah. But at the end of the day, he just wasn't very good. And I don't think we were capable of fixing him at this point. So
No.
he had a 1.5 whip last year, dude. And the defense can be blamed for some of that. Like Mark Leiter Jr. had statistically the worst defense behind him. And not saying that the Yankees defense was statistically the worst, but specifically when Mark Leiter Jr. was pitching, the Yankees defense could not field. Literally at all. But
Dude, it was the same thing with Stroman in 2024. Like they had like it was like one of the worst defensive rates when Stroman.
And like that would probably get better, but I'm just glad I don't have to watch him anymore. Go be really good. Go pitch to like a 2.9 ERA with the Guardians or something, dude. Like I wish you the best of luck, Mark Leiter Jr. as a person, except for he's kind of annoying. He always was wearing the Jesus wins shirt. We won't get into that.
Oh, yeah.
After he would like blow a game and then he'd put on his Jesus wins shirt, whatever. And we let go of like Jake Cousins, a couple others guys. So Jake Bird, point is, will have a role at the bottom of this bullpen, and I hope he takes that opportunity and rises up the bullpen trust leaderboard.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to the free agent starters? Or
yes.
Starter.
It's really just one free agent starter I want to talk about, and that's Tatsuya Imai. He's coming over from Japan. He's the premier guy. There are a couple other lower-tier Japanese starters that we're not going to really mention today. Once they sign, we can do a little quick segment about them. But the guy to focus on is Imai. He's 27 years old. He's coming out of the NPB. He had definitely the best season of his career last year in Japan. And basically all of the metrics on him that I could find say that he will be an effective starter. His fastball, he throws it hard in a similar movement to Joe Ryan, who plays for the Twins. Elite fastball, 93rd percentile in run value for Joe Ryan's fastball. And Imai throws it on average harder than Joe Ryan does. That being said, it's unclear how the MLB baseball will impact his stuff. Are you aware of like the difference between the Japanese baseball and the Major League Baseball?
Not off the top, like I don't know the specifics, but yes.
It's basically, the main thing is that it's smaller. The Japanese baseball is a little bit smaller, which means that you can kind of get your hand around the seams more. You can manipulate the seams more. I think it's also pre-tacked. So that means like it's basically, you know, like this whole spider tack thing was that pitchers said they couldn't get a grip on the ball. But when they were getting a grip on the ball, it would obviously make their spin rates go up and make the pitches more effective. So on average, pitchers will get higher movement on their pitches in Japan rather than they would in the MLB. So you can expect that some of this movement and velo would go down when Imai comes over to the U.S. But we've seen with all these Japanese pitchers coming over, these types of things, it's not that it makes them useless. It just lowers their effectiveness a little bit. It's just kind of a matter of how much their effectiveness will go down. Imai also used to have pretty major command issues. He came up very young. He came up in NPB at 19 years old. So he's been in professional baseball for 8 years. But in 2020, he had a 1.9 whip. And then the year after that, it was like a 1.5. But every year, it's gone consistently down. Last couple years, it's been good. And last year, it was absolutely elite. He had a 0.89 whip, which is basically just walks, hits, plus innings pitched, per innings pitched. So it's basically just the amount of base runners he gives us per inning. And so he gives up less than a guy on base per inning on average, which is as good as it gets. Like those are Scooble numbers over there in Japan. So he's also still in his physical prime. He's 27 years old, as I mentioned. So he only has room to really improve from here physically. And he just has he has a good mentality. Like, have you seen any of the quotes about his mentality?
I have, yeah. Go ahead.
No, you.
Oh, yeah. I know there's been a lot about wanting to beat the Dodgers, and I think I'm paraphrasing here, but the quote about Yamamoto and Shohei and other Japanese stars is, "Now's not the time to admire them. I want to become the best pitcher in the world." And also I've heard people say that he was actually, when he was drafted, a higher graded prospect than Yamamoto was. Obviously, Yamamoto did things that, like, Yamamoto and Imai are not comparable NPB pitchers. Yamamoto did incredible things in the NPB, and obviously Imai has been very, very good, but Yamamoto was one of. There's a reason he was at one point the highest. It still is the highest paid pitcher in baseball.
Highest paid. He got the biggest pitcher contract before he ever threw a pitch in MLB.
Yeah, and clearly it was worth it because they're putting him in. Totally blanking. I'm blank. Bumgarner.
Oh yeah,
His postseason right there. When you're getting comparisons to that, you've obviously been very successful, but Imai wants to be better than that. Like, Imai's goal is to be better than Yamamoto, and that is the type of guy that you want on your team. I feel a lot of people have talked a lot about the attitude on this team and attitude of guys like Stanton and attitude of guys like Cole, where Stanton talks about the playoffs like you have to live in the moment. It's a totally different environment. You have to embrace it. Cole says the same thing. These guys are competitors, and when you have a guy with that mindset, there might be a little bit of an adjustment period coming over from the MLB or from the NPB to the MLB, but the MLB, he is a competitor, and he is not going to face struggles and just give up. He's going to want to get better, and I would just be over the moon if we signed him. It's been way too long since we've had a Japanese star of any kind on this team, and obviously the pitching needs help. So, especially in the playoffs, like the Yankee, we talked about this in our first episode. Like, the Yankee starter playoff numbers besides Garrett Cole right now are not good, like, for anyone. And so we need someone to come in and anchor that and be the guy. And obviously, Rodon gets a little bit of a leash because he was pitching hurt this year. But Max Fried in a large sample size of innings is one of the worst one of the worst playoff starters. So we need someone to lock that down, and MI seems like the competitor to do it.
Yeah. Let's go on to the bullpen here. Tell me about the first two big bullpen guys that are available.
Yeah, I know. So Hot Stove was last night, and Jack Curry kind of poo-pooed both of these options. And honestly, neither of them are really anything that I would want to spend big money on right now. Actually, Diaz, so Edwin Diaz, obviously elite. He is going to command a 5-year deal, most likely, 4 to 5 years, and he's getting older. The velocity is getting lower. And the Yankees are just so good at producing high quality relievers from cheap sources, and so I feel like it's money better spent elsewhere. And kind of the same thing as Diaz. He's going to get paid less, so I think I'd be more excited about Suarez than I would. Or I'd be very excited about Diaz. I think if they were just saying, to hell with the money, let's sign Diaz. Because I do think Edwin Diaz is going to still be elite this year and probably next year. I think that contract just towards the end is probably not going to be as good. But if they're doing what Cohen is doing and say, like, I don't care about the years, Cashman up, get out. We're the Yankees. Get out there and go sign Edwin Diaz. They should absolutely do it. But that kind of seems like that is not where they're at. So in that vein, Robert Suarez, kind of the same thing. He relies mostly on his velocity to be effective, and obviously flamethrowers are something that we've kind of been missing from the Yankee bullpen in the especially last year. There were a lot of low velocity trick pitch guys coming out of the pen, and velocity would be nice, but velocity is kind of the first thing to go as pitchers get older, and he is kind of getting up there in age. So I think money that they might spend on the bullpen is probably money better well spent elsewhere. But there is one more free agent reliever that we would like to talk about who played for 2 teams this year, and I will pass it over to Kyle to take care of that.
Yeah, so sharing a wonderful name, we will be talking about Kyle Finnegan a little bit. He was the closer for the Nationals. I live near DC. I've been to many, many Nationals games. I went to probably 15 this year. I saw him pitch in person many, many times. Wasn't very good with the Nationals this year. It was really funny because he was on one of our friends' fantasy teams, and he didn't get a save for like a month and a half, and whenever he would pitch, he would give up a home run. But when he got traded to the Tigers, he was actually really, really good. He put up a sub-3 ERA with the Tigers. He was pitching multiple innings basically every time with the Tigers, it felt like. But a lot of people are saying that the Yankees should go out and get him. He's obviously not going to cost as much as Robert Suarez or Edwin Diaz. You might even be able to get him on a 1-year deal. I think you'd probably have to do at least 2 or 3 considering what the other relievers have been getting. But I want to kind of pour water on the idea of a Kyle Finnegan signing, just because basically home runs have been Kyle Finnegan's issue. As I mentioned, he gave up a lot of them in the Nationals. When he went to the Tigers, I don't even think he gave up a single home run in the regular season, or I think he gave up one at the very end of the year. But after he got traded, he just stopped giving up home runs, and that's really why he was doing so well. But his career home run per 9 rate, which is basically how many home runs you give up for every 9 innings pitched, was 1.14, including this year. But this year, he got it down to 0.63, so he cut his home run rate in half, which is really weird, but not necessarily indicative of something larger. So I tried to dig a little bit deeper. And from there, we got into his home run per fly ball rate. So basically, home run per fly ball rate is a way to tell if a pitcher's getting lucky, because sometimes, like, you hit a ball in the air, you hit it hard, not all the time it's going to go out, whether that be wind, whether that be backspin, etc. So home run per fly ball rate is a way to kind of normalize how lucky a pitcher's getting in terms of allowing home runs. And his home run per fly ball rate was around 15% for his career, which is high. The league average is about between 10 to 12%. But he gives up hard contact, so that makes some sense. But this year, it was 7.8%. So he was just getting massively lucky in terms of when he would give up a fly ball, it just would stay in the yard. And this was not coinciding with him giving up less hard hit balls, because it would make sense. Like, if you cut down on how hard the opponents were hitting the baseball, that less fly balls would go for home runs. But that wasn't the case. So that leads me to believe that he will regress at least a little bit from his numbers this year. The Tigers did make some legit changes. They changed up his pitch mix. He was throwing his splitter a lot more. He threw it, I think, 15% more with the Tigers than he did with the Nationals. But at the end of the day, I think that spending maybe a 2-year deal on Kyle Finnegan is probably not the move. And I'd rather see the Cashman dumpster dive bullpen move and maybe a trade for somebody like Jojo Romero, who you mentioned at the end there.
Yeah, we'll circle back to bullpen trade options, but I agree. There's really none of like the top 20 bullpen guys really. I honestly, the only one I wanted was Devin. So that is now off the table, which is unfortunate, but he obviously has his own thoughts about the Yankees, and, we wish him well with the Mets until whenever the Subway Series is. I think it's in like May this year. But
looking at starters now, there's really, I think, 3 of them that are obvious candidates. So number 1 is obviously Freddie Peralta. Everyone probably knows who he is already, but with the Brewers last year, this would be a rental, but he's 29 years old and he strikes everybody out.
Yeah, I mean, he's a top of the league guy, and sorry, he's Freddie Peralta. I don't know why the Brewers are at all interested in trading him. I'm
Money.
told that a salary cap will fix this problem, but I don't necessarily believe that. If Freddie Peralta is available and they miss on Imai, or even if they get Imai, like do what the Dodgers did. The Dodgers just stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked pitching. You're If the last 3 years have shown anything, you're gonna face pitching injuries. It's going to happen, and it could happen anywhere it could happen anywhere in the rotation. Luis Gil was injured. Clark Schmidt was injured. Carlos Rodon was injured. Max Fried is going to miss a couple games with an injury at some point in the year. That's his thing. It's never like a long-term thing, but it's always like a blister or something like that. Like he's going to miss games. Or you could lose your ace for the year. Or multiple of these things could happen at the same time. You never know, especially now with the velocity at which pitchers are throwing. Injuries happen all the time. Stack up on pitching. Sign him and trade for someone. Like, not for nothing, if Spencer Jones doesn't have a lane this year, they should trade him. There's no reason
prospect hugging is over.
27-year-old something in AAA. Like I listen. I like Spencer Jones. I think I go back and forth on him. Like it depends on what I'm looking at. If I'm looking at like his numbers, I'm out. And if I'm looking at that side-by-side video of him and Judge hitting a home run, I'm back in, But and mind you, there should not be a lane for Spencer Jones on this team. Like, they need to I've been seeing a lot of talk about them doing Dominguez and Jones, like a mix in the outfield instead of signing someone. This is potentially the last year of MVP-level Judge. You don't know what's going to happen in 2027. We could miss the entire year of 2027. And then Judge is old. So many people are on the last year of their contract. Like, this could be effectively the last year of this version of like the Judge era. And you need to capitalize on it. And if you're walking into the year with Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez as your left fielders, I'm sorry, that's legitimately legacy ruining stuff for Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman. Like, yeah. I am generally more favorable on the two of them than most. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. And so with that, you should trade Spencer Jones. And so why not trade? Listen, I don't think he would get it done in a Freddie Peralta trade, but I do think, and it almost did, the Marlins and the Yankees were a Spencer Jones away from Sandy Alcantara in pinstripes like 4 months ago. So it could still happen. And so I think that's a good segue into Sandy, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, Sandy was awful last year. Won the Cy Young in 2022 with the Marlins. Came back from Tommy John, was not good. It's kind of unclear as well why he was this bad. Like, he wasn't getting unlucky. He was getting hit really hard, but his stuff was still good. I was looking to see if I can find literally any reason why he was this bad. His location plus was fine. His stuff was exactly the same. People were just nuking him. And I'm sure that somebody more intelligent than I am can figure out exactly what the issue was. He also did get better towards the end of the year. We said this with Cole, like sometimes the outcomes for people coming back from Tommy John vary wildly, especially in that first year. But I think that Sandy is still a very strong option. And if the Yankees can get it done, especially considering he doesn't get paid very much, he gets paid $11 million a year, which is nothing for somebody with Cy Young upside. I think that if the Yankees can pull the trigger, especially if the cost is Spencer Jones, do it immediately.
Yeah.
Edward Cabrera is the other guy from the Marlins that's available. He's young. He's 27. His fastball is genuinely poop. It's so bad. Worst in the league type fastball. But his other pitchers are so good. He's a good pitcher. You love Edward Cabrera, so why don't you say a little bit more about him?
I feel like I'm saying this like a broken record. He was a GOAT for my fantasy team for a very long time until he got injured at the end of the year, which was very unfortunate. But the stuff plus on his pitches for everything except the fastball is really, and even the fastball is a 94 on stuff plus, so it's 6% worse than the average MLB fastball, which is not great. But it's not like it's in terms of run value, yeah, it was fifth percentile run value was a -12, so obviously not great. But the other pitches, his slider was 100 stuff plus, or a 106 stuff plus. I'm sorry. His cutter was a 119. His changeup was a 101. So obviously, there's some stuff to like there. His fastball velocity is 97 miles per hour. It just gets rocked. So maybe it's more of a location issue than anything. But I think the Marlins guys have less of a chance to get traded than people think. Like the Marlins were a couple wins away from making the playoffs this year. Like they're close. And I think they're closer than people realize. And they have a young team. I really like the Marlins a lot. I didn't like them when they were sweeping us, but I think they're a fun team to watch. Kyle Stowers is great. I think he's going to be something really special as time goes on. That it's hard to find a trade as beneficial for both sides than the Stowers trade that sent I'm blanking on his name, Trevor Rogers to Baltimore. I can't hear you if you're saying anything. Yo, you're muted.
I'm muted again. God damn it. I always forget there's so many people who start with T and then have the last name Rogers in Major League Baseball. I think it's Trevor Rogers. Am I wrong?
Yeah, Tyler Rogers went to the Mets, and Trevor Rogers was an Oriole. And also he went from the Giants to the Mets, and Trevor Rogers was an Oriole. So that's 3 orange teams for 2 T Rogers. So, anyways, but
messed up.
It is fun to play games and talk about trades, but I do think the likely pitching move that they make is signing Imai. I think the other free agent pitching acquisition that they were maybe going to go after was Michael King, and I've been seeing a couple reports about Michael King, but he has the qualifying offer attached to him, and I don't think that they want to give up draft picks for Michael King, especially with the injury issues that he's had in his time with the Yankees and also in his time with the Padres. He's missed a lot of time. So I love Michael King, but I think I think if Michael King has been signed, then something has probably gone wrong. No disrespect to Michael King. But moving on to, and this is a little bit of a long episode, so thank you for sticking with us. But moving on to 2 bullpen trade acquisition ideas. So we mentioned this earlier. There has been some smoke with Jojo Romero of the Cardinals. I remember seeing some stuff about it at the deadline as well. I think the Yankees have been on him in the past. I'm not opposed to it at all. His peripherals are really good. Again, a really good batted ball data guy. He's got 95th percentile ground ball rates, 88th percentile hard hit rates, 91st percentile average exit velocity. So there's a lot to like there, and especially with, hopefully Ben Rice will get better at first on defense, but we have defensive specialists at third, second, and I'm going to assume shortstop. I'm assuming Volpe is going to be back to the level of defense that he was playing. I think we can give him that credit. But yeah, I think his strikeout numbers are okay. His whiff and K rates are middle of the pack. His chase rates are pretty low, and his walk rates are pretty high. So, there's stuff to like and there's stuff not to like. What do you think, Kyle?
It would be nice to get another lefty in the bullpen besides Tim Hill that's good. Tim Hill has been amazing. I love Tim Hill as a Yankee.
Until proven otherwise.
And I really do think, though, that they need at least one more guy who's a lefty. I would rather it be a lefty with velocity, just because Tim Hill doesn't strike anybody out. And it would be nice to have somebody for like a lefty-lefty matchup if they need a strikeout.
Yeah.
But Romero's great, and he was good expected numbers and good actual numbers, which is not always what we get and when we're talking about relievers on this podcast. But the other option was Victor Vodnik, another Rockies guy. Worked great with Jake Bird, so let's do it again. But jokes aside, he's an interesting candidate just because he throws so hard. He's a 97th percentile of fastball velo, but that's not his best pitch. His best pitch is his off-speed pitch. So I think there's definitely some juice in the tank, especially when the Yankees have said they want to add velocity here.
Yeah, and just looking at his changeup numbers, so the batting average against was a 109, and the expected batting average was a 133, and the WOBA was a 182, and the ex-WOBA was a 209. So not only is he getting good results, but the process is there on the changeup at least. And the fastball number, I mean, the fastball 357 weighted on base average, 366 expected weighted on base average. The only one that really, and actually, even his cutter, which had a 501 weighted on base average, had a 376 expected weighted on base average. So he was getting pretty unlucky there. And it's weird with cores, and balls don't drop in cores, and then you go elsewhere and you're playing your away games, and the balls just move differently. And so I think playing with consistency in Yankee Stadium could be helpful to him. I think being in the Yankees pitching lab could be very helpful to him. This is kind of one of those Cashman. I figured we should throw in at least one. This seems like a very if Matt Blake was giving Cashman a short list, I feel like Victor Vodnik would probably be pretty high up on there. He's kind of got what they like. Same thing, elite ground ball guy, and so yeah, I'd be happy with that. Again, I'm expecting a lot more of moves like that, Victor Vodnik types, where they're just going for guys with stuff that they like and seeing what they can do. But yeah, that is. Unless you had anything else to add?
There's definitely going to be at least some random Cashman bullpen trade. We could go through random relievers for another hour and 11 minutes.
It's impossible to predict.
It's impossible to predict. They don't leak, so we'll never know until it happens. But I do believe in Cashman. What he does is assemble good bullpen pieces. I know the bullpen was kind of up and down last year, but I don't really think that was his fault. You get the best closer of the last 3 years and he sucks.
Yeah.
You can't really blame Cashman for that. You get Camilo Doval and he struggled initially. You get Jake Burr. All these things, good process, bad results. Not worried about it. I expect good things from the bullpen next year, especially from the trade market. I doubt we sign anybody. But before we wrap it up here, I just want to ask you for a prediction. I want you to say who you think they're going to sign in free agency and give me one person you think they're most likely to trade for.
We're just doing pitchers?
Let's do, just pitchers.
Okay. I think Tetsuya Imai, I guess this is obvious, but there's a lot of smoke around there. There's been a lot of noise about the Yankees wanting to get back in on the Japanese market. They have a hole in the rotation, and he has no sweeters really. I mean, Boston just traded for Sonny Gray. Toronto just signed Dylan Cease and Cody Ponce. So I think that actually I still thought that they were. I didn't think that them signing Dylan Cease took them out of the Imai sweepstakes, but I think them signing Cody Ponce kind of does. I think that rotation is set as it is now. There was that report that the Giants aren't really looking to give out long-term contracts. I think maybe the Phillies might be but they also, I mean, they have a solid rotation. They have some money tied up there. I think, and same thing the Mets, Dodgers, all these big heavy hitters are kind of just going to be in on the periphery, and we really need to take advantage of a weak market. And I think we need to do the similar thing for Kyle Tucker, but that's a different conversation. And I'll say Jojo Romero. I really thought that they were going to trade for Jojo Romero at the deadline, and I have seen a couple things about it. I think he has what they're looking for, like you said. I think they definitely need to add another lefty, and the Cardinals look to be kind of selling off all their pieces here. And as Chaim Bloom, former Red Sox legend, kind of tears it down and starts it anew. But I think not for nothing, he was better than Ryan Helsley. He took the closer job from Ryan Helsley. And so I think that would be a worthwhile addition to my beautiful New York Yankees. What do you think, Kyle?
I am somehow not convinced about Imai. For some reason in my mind, I just can't see the Yankees signing him. Maybe it's just trauma from every other Japanese free agent always missing on the Yankees or not coming here. But I just can't see it yet. And I hope it happens. I really do. But if I have to make a prediction, I think that they spend money on bats, and I don't think they sign any free agent pitchers. I think they do a bunch of trades. I think that Freddie Peralta will be a Yankee. They have
Really?
the relationship with the Brewers, clearly. Like, they traded Devin Williams to the Yankees. There's a connection between the GMs. They've done business in the past before, not just for Devin. I think that they will get Freddie, just because the Brewers hate paying money for anybody. And I think that they could also be a candidate to assign Freddie Peralta to an extension if they do trade for him, which is another reason why they would want him. They start early, especially with the lockout coming. Free agents have kind of been shown to be more open to long-term deals just because the future is uncertain. So I think they get him or Sandy. I think it's one of those two guys.
Okay.
And for the bullpen, I think they dumpster dive and get some randos you've never heard of. But again, I'm happy with that. And then this is what I would like, assuming they spend money on offense. Please go get Kyle Tucker. I know this is the
Please
pitching
go
episode.
get Kyle Tucker.
Please go get Kyle Tucker. Please go get Kyle
Please.
Tucker. Oh my God.
Dude, okay, honestly, they just can't let him go to the Blue Jays. Like, there was that, like, MLB Network yesterday where they were, like, showing all the lineups. And, like, I saw the Yankees lineup with Kyle Tucker, and it makes me feel tingly. But I saw the Blue Jays lineup with Kyle Tucker, and I would stop watching the sport. Like, the podcast is canceled if the Blue Jays get Kyle Tucker. And we, like, also...
He was at their facility. You saw that, right?
No, he wasn't.
What?
No.
You're lying. Don't lie to our audience, bro.
Shohei Ohtani was on a plane to Toronto.
He was literally there. They saw him there.
Yes. Kyle Tucker was at the Blue Jays facility in Florida, apparently. But
don't be afraid.
He's doing his due diligence. You know what? He's preparing to take it back to the Yankees and say, this is what I saw in Florida. This is what I got on the Blue Jays.
Yeah, it's scouting.
Scouting.
That's good. He's a spy.
Yeah. But
anyway, thank you for listening. This has been a pretty long episode.
it has.
But I hope that you gained some interesting knowledge here. We're pretty excited for next year, despite every year how we suffer so greatly as Yankee fans. Nobody has it worse. Never forget.
Nobody.
But this has been River Avenue Radio. I'm not sure what we're going to do for our next episode. We kind of had plans for these three, but we'll, I'm sure, figure something out. We'll record next week as well, hopefully. And we'll get back to you with some interesting content.
Yeah, the winter meetings will be well underway at that point, so I'm sure we'll have some stuff to talk about. But
yeah, maybe do an emergency pod if the Yankees do something interesting.
Yeah, there have been conflicting reports on MI. Rosenthal today said that he was going to be visiting teams after the winter meetings, and Jeff Passan said that he was going to maybe sign at the winter meetings. So one of them is right.
Yeah, I was
and one of
surprised
them
by
is wrong.
that. Usually Japanese pitchers and Japanese players in general usually sign pretty late in the offseason. But hopefully they sign soon, get the market moving, give us something to talk about. So again, this has been River Avenue Radio. I am Kyle.
I am Ryan. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a review, leave a comment. Follow us on Twitter at RiverAvRadio, or you can follow our personal accounts at I'm RJP_RAR, and Kyle is
KD_RAR. So yeah, good to talk to you. We'll be seeing you soon. Go Yankees.
Go Yankees. Thank you for listening.